Hello and welcome to RedHawks Weekly on Valley News Now. Adam Shalfu alongside, if I'm Mark McGuire, this is Jose Canseco.
Can I be Mark McGuire? Can we trade?
I can be Canseco.
Okay, that's fair.
Anyway, we're joined by the commissioner here, though, of the American Association, Josh Schaub. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's great to see you here. Beautiful day to talk about some baseball. How are you doing?
Doing very well. We're obviously in the middle of baseball season, so no place I'd rather be than right here, right now.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. It's been a super competitive league so far, so let's just kind of talk about how competitive it's been. It seems like very well balanced. The last place can beat a first place any day and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great principles of a league, or what makes league great, is that the outcome of the games remain in doubt. More importantly, the outcome of the end of the season remains in doubt. And clearly, if you look at our standings in both the East and West, we know that it's still wide open at this point, and the teams are within just games of each other. And the real important part that fans should know about is that there's always a race at the top of the standings and a race at the bottom to get that fourth playoff spot, because our first playoff spot gets to choose their opponent. So it's always awesome at the end of the year to see both of those two races within each division happening.
That's such a fun and unique format for the playoffs. I can't name any other league off the top of my head that does that. How much pride do you guys take in that kind of unique postseason format, and how much more competitive does it make the regular season?
Well, the word innovative is used both on our business side and on the baseball side. I think we've been extremely innovative on the business side now that all games on aabaseball.tv, live games you can view for free. And on the baseball side, remaining innovative yet tied to the traditions of the game we grew up loving. So that's really important to us in that respect.
When you're talking about that innovation, part of it, you touch on it too with the coverage. It's a constantly growing. We have our partnership with the RedHawks. Gray Television has had a partnership with some other members of the league. As this is growing, kind of what have you experienced from a commissioner standpoint? Has it made your job a little bit more difficult? Kind of what are some new things that you've had to approach here?
Yeah, every year I've been a commissioner, which I started in 2019. It's like these building blocks. So first it happens with marketing, and then we have PR, and then sponsorship at the league level starts to kick up. Now this year is really a push to improve our broadcast production and quality across all 12 teams. We signed the deal with Gray Media to bring our games to local affiliates throughout the country. We signed a deal with The Unbeaten, which is a fast channel that's distributed nationally and internationally on many fast channels. And we're about to announce a third national deal with the largest sports property that we've ever dealt with, and probably one of the top 4 in the world. So we're extremely excited to bring American Association baseball to the masses. And to your point, television is our next frontier in growing the American Association. So there's a lot of emphasis on it right now.
How much pride do you kind of take in being, the commissioner of the league that's, kind of spearing that front? How much pride do you take in that and the innovations that you guys have made so far?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride, obviously, in the efforts made by our staff and really by our ownership groups that see the vision and want to invest in that vision, because there has been a lot of investment that have gone in the league in the last few years. And I give a lot of credit to our owners, including the ownership group in Fargo, that have seen this vision and want to transform into kind of the next level of professional baseball. And just as a side, I think listeners, viewers should know that professional baseball as an industry is very healthy right now. We're on very good footing. Couldn't be happier with not only where the American Association is, but where professional baseball is going.
Going back to kind of the standings talk we had just a little bit ago, I think Fargo Moorhead is the top team, but right behind them is Sioux Falls. On the other side, it's Kane County leading the way. Kind of what's it like every year seeing different teams step up? I know that's kind of the nature of pro sports, but when you're in these kind of years where it's some different players at the top of the standings, how much more fun does it make the league for you as a commissioner?
It's interesting. We have free agency, but our players typically stick with us anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So there's a lot of turnover, and because of the nature of our classifications and how we are allowed to set up rosters, there really is a true equal playing field for teams to put together rosters, as opposed to Major League Baseball, where we kind of know whoever invests the most money is most likely to be the one standing at the end. So hope truly springs eternal in the American Association every year to see who's going to be on top.
And what do you think it is about this league? Because you guys just constantly bringing in. I mean, I remember Devin and I had a game last year, and all of a sudden we're like, "Hey, remember that guy from the MLB All-Star game on the Monarchs?" And you get not just former MLB guys, but like really good MLB guys. I think a guy, just talking RedHawks, like Sam Dexter, he might have one of the best gloves in the world, not just the association. Evan Alexander could definitely be playing in the MLB.
Davis Feldman was at the MLB.
He was at the MLB. Yeah. What is it that makes it so
appealing? As we innovate on the business side, I'm introduced to more and more people in the sports industry, and I kind of describe our league, and they're stunned at how much talent is actually in our league. And that there were players literally in the big leagues within the last 12 months, and now they're on our rosters. In fact, at opening day last year, we had 25 players that had big league experience, 65 players that play in Double-A or above. And what I always tell people interested in our league that's fascinating is that most of our players were actually released before they hit their prime. Some big league team felt they weren't big leaguers before they even got to the peak of their career. And oftentimes those major league teams are wrong. And many of our players go back to Major League Baseball and then do make the major league level.
Saw McGovern do that just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he was, I think, the oldest player on the Springfield Cardinals when he went a couple of years ago. So, no, that lends to that for sure. I wanted to ask real fast, with the constant shuffling of the rosters, that's been kind of the main story here in Fargo, is them having to find guys to fill in. Is it tough to keep up with who's on these teams as the commissioner of the league, especially, as you go through the season, you just have to keep adding pieces?
What's really interesting is that everyone thinks our rosters have so much fluctuation day after day. In fact, we did a study on how many transactions we did against how many transactions big league teams do, and they're almost equal. Meaning a big league team goes through 50-plus players a year on their 28-man roster, 26-man roster. We're at like 50 to 55. We're actually really close. How many players actually put on our team's uniform every year, which is fascinating. So, yeah. I mean, there's change, but it's very common in the baseball industry for professional baseball at this level.
How have you seen the league grow throughout your time as commissioner?
It's grown in multiple ways, and it's really multifaceted, both from a commercial sense and total revenues. We've grown in terms of our presence. And just if you look at our AA partners, the types of companies that want to associate with us has significantly changed. I think we were always a great league in terms of our governance and how our teams performed and the level of play. Now we've just ratcheted it up from a technology perspective and what we're integrating in the league. Now we have TrackMan. We have, AABaseball.tv, our own owned and proprietary television network. So we have evolved to become much more of a stable and prominent commercial piece of the baseball landscape. And that's coupled with being an MLB partner league and having that marketing associated with us as well.
It feels like part of that evolution, and maybe this is just from my perspective as a local sports guy in one of these markets, is you guys have seemed to put a lot of emphasis on access, getting a lot of making sure that there's clips going out on social media, making sure that there's posts going out on social media constantly. It feels like, and then with the TV deals, it feels like getting the game in front of more viewers is really a point of emphasis for you guys. I don't know if I'm too off base with that. Maybe I'm just seeing it too much as a local sports guy here, but that's just kind of what it seems like from my perspective. How much emphasis do you put on that?
No, a ton of emphasis. So we have to be omni-channel and go where eyeballs are, which is on your phone, right? So constantly on social media, constantly on just in your face, digital. The other thing to note is building the jewel events. So the All-Star Game, Miles Wolf Cup, and notable for Fargo is the Baseball Champions League.
Sure.
So by laddering up from the American Association Championship to an international championship and being on ESPN in Mexico and broadcast across all kinds of channels in the United States, it is important just to constantly have news cycle and our products in front of people. That comes digital, television, and just print media and podcasts and interviews like this, to be completely honest.
Well, I want to kind of touch on a similar question to Devin there, a little bit about my background and some about yours here. I see that you spent some time in the Milwaukee Brewers Association, and now you're choosing to do this. I'm from Geneva, Illinois. You know, I grew up going to Kane County Cougars games, and I think it's so important when we talk about accessibility. Baseball is a game, you know, it grew up in the farm fields, Field of Dreams. And, you know, being able to go out and have these more small town feels or smaller city feels, how special is it to be able to contribute to that part of baseball's culture as a whole?
Yeah, the one thing American Association will always provide is access to heroes. So we are, first off, we're in the areas where a lot of major league properties didn't want to be, whether it's rural down I-29 or within, you know, Kane County you mentioned, where Major League Baseball abandoned those. And we've gone out to prove that you don't have to be tied with a major league organization to be successful. So that's important. The second one is I've been going to Major League Baseball games, and the cost to go to Major League Baseball games has become absolutely egregious.
Yeah.
And I understand costs are going up on their side, but we will always have pride in the American Association to have an affordable, family and friendly entertainment piece coming through baseball. And I know you have that in Fargo, and we're going to continue to have that in Fargo.
Speaking of your guys' markets and the teams that you have, are you happy with where you guys are at, you know, league size-wise? Could we be looking at maybe some expansion coming up in the future? Kind of where do you stand as far as where you guys are at league-wise right now?
So we do plan to expand, and what's really been unlocked in recent years is secondary and tertiary cities building stadiums through work-live-play developments. So you may be familiar with the Milwaukee Milkmen, which play within Ballpark Commons. That stadium was built using tax incremental financing. We've now taken that same model and gone to Waco, Texas, Blaine, Minnesota, Jersey Village, Texas, and Clarksville, Tennessee, and building not just stadiums, but actual developments. And right now we have $3 billion worth of development in planning. We hope to be in ground at least on 2 projects by this winter and 4 within the next 24 months. And so we'll be at hopefully 16 by 2026. And we look for incremental growth, likely up to 24 by 2028, 29.
Looking forward to that.
You literally heard it here first. You literally heard it here first. That's awesome news. That's super cool. Super cool.
When you're kind of approaching that, where does the process even begin? I couldn't imagine looking to add one expansion teams, much less trying to do multiple. Double the size of the league across a couple of years. Where does this process even start?
So historically speaking, leagues would wait for cities to build stadiums, and then they would try to bid on the stadium and find an operator and get in there and compete against each other. What we've done is flip that process on its head and brought in developers, brought in operators, and identified the cities we want to be in. So we go in and pitch the city as to why you want American Association baseball, why you want these work-live play developments, and why the work-live play development removes the political football of financing stadiums. So we've taken the initiative and be on the tip of the spear in creating these initiatives instead of sitting back and waiting for them to happen. And that's why expansion is going to happen, and really the financing of these stadiums has been unlocked through these other developments and innovations, including Milwaukee.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask is, because I'm a big fan of the 100-game season. I think 162 is just plain and simply too long.
A little too long.
You know, we're all baseball fans here, but I've told Devin I'm an American Association guy. I'm not even watched the MLB this year.
That's accurate.
All association, all day. But what is it about the 100-game schedule that's appealing for you, and perhaps the players, if you can speak on their behalf as well?
Yeah, I think it's edible, right? It's digestible for 100 games, but games in April, and now Major League Baseball plays in March a little bit, and then you get into September and you start to run into football, like it gets tougher and tougher to have the attention of fans. The other one is the just temperature and the climate up in Fargo and Winnipeg in May is not really tolerable for having baseball.
Yeah.
So by having a 100-game season, it allows fans to actually enjoy the experience, have an edible product that's digestible over 100 games that you can follow without really clashing into competition in the spring and fall.
Excellent. I got one more question here for you without talking about any current players. If you just had to name, let's call it a Mount Rushmore of just the all-time great American Association players, who's on your short list?
I know we promised you no hot seat questions, but this is definitely one of them.
This is a good time to plug the Hall of Fame. So the American
Perfect.
Association Hall of Fame, we're inducting our third class July 23rd in Kansas City. Off the top of my head, you have a player in Fargo that was pretty prominent there for years, in Kevin McGovern.
Sure.
I think that's clearly a player there. Reggie Abercrombie would be another one. Kurt Smith, and another player, Ben Moore, who also spent some time there and in Sioux Falls. So I think that's 4 off the top of my head without really thinking about it.
We'll have to get back into you when you're able to research a little bit more. We need a definitive Mount Rushmore in the future.
And then we'll get out there and we'll chisel it.
Yeah, I'll make it myself. It'll be in the outfield at Newman Outdoor Field here pretty soon.
We know a guy. Yeah.
We know a chisel guy.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll do some more research because there's some recently retired players too that probably fit the bill. Some of them have gone on to Major League Baseball. Some of them are over in Japan playing. One in particular that would probably be on that Mount Rushmore more. So we have to do this next year after those players retire, so I can officially weigh in.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, we'll let you get back to, I'm sure you got a lot of busy stuff to do as the commissioner. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to Devin and I on RedHawks Weekly as a part of Valley News Now. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we let you go?
No, I would just encourage fans, to attend RedHawks games and really go watch them on the road too. Go to Sioux Falls, go city and watch them. And then if not, they're on AABaseball.tv where you can watch games for free.
And if not on AA Baseball TV, here on our Valley News Live, one of our Valley News Live networks.
That's right. And in fact, any Gray station that is carrying American Association games. So we appreciate the partnership.
Of course.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joshua. We're going to let you get going here. Until next time, Adam Shalafu alongside Devin Fry. This has been RedHawks Weekly.